Hello folks, welcome to Legacy IAS Academy. In this video, we will be discussing a current affair topic presented to you by your faculty Sushma KP. So what is the topic that we will be discussing today? NATO Summit of 2026. What does NATO stands for? North Atlantic Treaty Organization. See, NATO is one such organization which came into existence post your Second World War or the beginning of your Cold War era. What is this NATO? In a simple, let's say I have to tell post 1945, that is after your Second World War, your West and its allies wanted to create a collective security mechanism. This collective security mechanism was called as North Atlantic Treaty Organization, where they do have a feature of collective security. Attack on one is equal to attack on all. Similarly, the East, because now when I am telling West and East, post Second World War or your Cold War era beginning, the world was divided into two powerful military blocs, USA and USSR. So if USA formed NATO, your USSR went ahead and formed Warsaw Pact. Now with the disintegration of your USSR in 1991, so was your Warsaw. But now the NATO relevance is still there. Why? Because the NATO today, if you see your Russia-Ukraine war, one of the key things about the war also relates to something about NATO. What is it? Simple. Ukraine wants NATO membership, but your Russia does not want Ukraine to have NATO membership. First thing. Second thing, your NATO allies all support your Ukraine, but your Ukraine is not eligible under your collective security. Understanding? So, such a NATO summit will be held, a 2-day summit will be held in Ankara in Turkey. It will be chaired by your NATO Secretary General Mark Rutte. Okay. Now, how many members will be participating in this? 32 member nations will be participating in the NATO summit, which will be of 2 days. Now, if you see what will be the most important things that will be discussed here, constantly US President Donald Trump has mentioned how NATO is a paper tiger and how it doesn't come to aid when your US needed the most. He has even warned that he will withdraw your US troops, and your US President Donald Trump has been focused on discussing two important things. One is with respect to your Ukraine war and another one is with respect to your Greenland issue. So, your NATO Summit 2026 will be held in Ankara for 2 days in Turkey. It will be chaired by NATO Secretary General Mark Rutte. All 32 participating country leaders are participating, and the focus will be on global security and defense cooperation. What will be the main aspects they will be discussing? Defense spending, because US President Donald Trump has constantly criticized that NATO members are not spending enough for the collective security. It is USA which is bankrolling these things. And they will be speaking about continuation of your support given to Ukraine, now which has entered into almost 4 years. It's been happening since 4 years, Russia-Ukraine war, and speaks about European security, Indo-Pacific partnership and regional stability. Okay, so this is your Ankara summit. What exactly is NATO? Like we discussed, established in 1949 with headquarters in Belgium, Brussels. It's a military alliance of 32 nations. It is West and the allies. The idea is collective defense. Again, what is collective defense? Attack on one is attack on all. So, all the members will collectively defend the security of the region. So, why is this? Two objectives. You have to protect the member countries and establish peace and cooperation. So, the founding members were 12. As of now, there is 32 members, recently joined by your Finland and Sweden. Why exactly is NATO expanding? If you see, one thing is your expansionist policy or aggressive nature of Russia. and security environments are also changing, which needs reassurance, especially in your European countries. That is why your Finland and Sweden are also joined. And also collective security increases the wide scope of regional cooperation. So why is this summit important? Because this summit comes at a period of time where the, let's say, your Russia-Ukraine war is ongoing, entered into the 4th year, and also your European defense preparedness wants to be increased, and your US-Europe relations are also on a strained ties with respect to NATO being called a paper tiger, the budgetary spending is not much, and also ongoing your Middle East instability with respect to your Iran war, and also the focus of emerging military technologies as well as your China factor, which is also growing. Okay. So one of the biggest discussions will be about the defense spending, where your US president is telling that it is time now that all the European members also stepped up, understanding their part of the commitment in defense spending, and also reduce the dependence on your USA, because as of now, according to US President Donald Trump, it is USA alone that is trying to bear the burden of this. And he wants now to do the burden sharing, wherein financial responsibility of collective security of the entire European region and basically the West should be shared by all. So US military presence has indicated that it will reduce the troops stationed in Europe. This will reduce the deterrence in this particular region, that is your European regions, especially now with the aggressive streak of your Russia. And there are huge amount of readiness gaps with respect to collective security. Okay, so this may further reshape how the alliance can go ahead in the specific collective security of the European region. So Ukraine remains NATO's highest priority. It is not a member, but yet it receives the support of the allies with respect to weapons, training, logistics, military equipment and intelligence support, but it does not receive collective security. Okay. So Article 5 does not apply to your Ukraine, which is nothing but collective security. So the global partnership continues from your Indo-Pacific dimension of Japan, South Korea, Australia, New Zealand, because all these guys will also be meeting, the defense heads will also be meeting here. Now with the new focus on your rising China's influence in the Indo-Pacific region with respect to supply chains, technological cooperation, regional stability and your maritime cooperation. Now when we see with respect to Middle East engagement, this will further the focus area on the Middle Eastern members with respect to UAE, Qatar, Kuwait, Bahrain also happens to be with energy security, regional cooperation, understanding oil security. So who and all the leaders will be present? US President Donald Trump, NATO Secretary General Mark Rutte, Ukrainian President Volodymyr Zelensky, European Council President Antonio Costa and European Commission President Ursula von der Leyen, and also your South Korean President Lee Jae-myung. All these leaders will be present for your 2-day NATO summit in Turkey. So if at all anything it is that we have to do a takeaway from this. A stronger European defense requires higher spending, better preparedness and reduced US dependency. Okay, and your US president is actively focusing on these aspects. If you have to continue with the Ukrainian support, then it has to come with financial assistance, long-term commitments, again the financial strain, global partnerships from your Indo-Pacific and Middle East engagement, and also new versions of security threats in the form of cyber warfare, artificial intelligence, hybrid warfare. All of these have to be considered, and the future of NATO itself becomes here evident as to what will be the upcoming, let's say, sphere of influence with respect to your European security. Now from India's perspective, India is not a NATO member. We maintain strategic autonomy. We do the balancing act with respect to USA, Russia, Europe and Ukraine. So European stability is very important to India, which means your NATO issue is not just a European issue but also India's concern. Why? Because this will lead to global trade, energy security, defense cooperation, supply chain, international peace. So basically peace has to prevail in the region if we have to make sure that the international supply chains, trade, maritime corporations, all these have to continue in a smoother manner, especially in a time which is so unpredictable and marred with conflicts. So with this, we've come to the end of the content. If you like our content, subscribe to our channel, hit the like button, share it along with your friends. Thank you.